Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
Fidel Joe Aguirre, William Robert Alamed Jr., James Milton Albright, Benjamin Francis Almaguer, Walter Evan Anderson Jr., Jesse Harold Archer, William Eugene Bailey, David Bartrock, Lester Bell, Jack Bernstein, Donald George Brown, Joel Andrew Brown, Richard Craig Brown, Theodore L. Cadenhead, James Luther Cameron, Jeffrey Tyrone Cassidy, Rudy York Chilacki, Cecil Leroy Chapman, Freddie Paul Chavez, Calvin Jeffrey Childress, Arthur Lee Chisholm, David B. Christensen, Robert Edmund Cochran, Arthur William Kofer, Leon Coit, Sylvester E. Conley, Jr., Richard John Cowell, Kenneth William Cowsert, John Calvin Crawford, William Roy Cruikshank, Joseph John Daffer, Thomas William Dean, Brunson A. Derrick Sr., Lawrence Desmore, Donald Robert Donaldson, Richard Allen Dosek, Raymond Arthur Dubbs, Larry Wade Duke, Forbes Pipkin Durant Jr., Robert William Eagleson, William Carl X., George Frederick Edwards, Philip Allen Elliott, Mike Espinoza, Francis Raymond Farron Jr., Clarence Edward Fetty, Charles Dale Flood, John Henry Flynn, Charles Jesse Ford, Bernard Anthony Frayne, William Arthur Gabrielson, Kenneth Eugene Gayer, Arthur George Pizarro, Donald Charles Gillette, Frank Gerald Geltz, Jack Leroy Goodwin, Hubert Haskell Gordon Jr., Billy Joel Grayview, Michael Frank Green, John Peter Gutman Jr., Charles McKinley Hairston, Edward Senior Hall, Byron Dwayne Hamlet, Buford Hardy,
Willie George Hawkins Jr., Bruce Huppert Hill, John Patrick Henry, Dan Leon Herdiba, Leo Claude Hester, Charles Darnell Hicks Jr., John Wesley Hill Jr., Donald Woods Holman, John Arthur Hooker, James Hiroshi Ishihara, Calvin Johnson, James J. L. Johnson, John Foster Johnson, Warren Edward Keck, Leonard Keller, Robert George Kerr, Robert Thomas Kaiser, Kevin Clinton Kramer, Stuart Bassett Lamkin, Warren Clifford Lane, Homer Hardy Lee, James Alfred Lessig, Ralph Anthony LaGrasso, Durwood Burt Lombard, Eldon Dale Long, William Lorimer IV, John Edward Lortz III, Carter Purvis Luna, James Francis Lytle, William Russell Mackey, Jr., Richard Albert Marsh, Brian Alexander Marshall, Lawrence Martin, Richard Edward Matthias, Owen Fred McCann, Robert Dale McFall, Edward Ralph Maierato, Louis Philip Marino, Richard Dancy Miller, Leonard Charles Miller, Julius Augusta Mitchell, Louis Wayne Moore, Alan David Mortensen, Floyd Moy, Dale Michael Mosden, John William Murphy III, Chester Arthur Myers, Jr., Dennis Orville Nelson, Marshall Dell Nelson, Clarence E. Nunnery, Jr., Ronald Charles Oglesby, Charles Oliver, Al Sumingweet Padaihog, Stephen Lloyd Peters, John B. Peterson, Jr., Roger Melvin Pisacreta, William Pishner, Jr., Frederick Price, Roger William Raby, William Earl Rager, James Laverne Randall, Larry Lee Rosher, Robert Rara, Byron Matthew Richard,
Paul Allen Richards, Don Robert Riley, Lester Riley, Jr., Gary Herbert Robeson, Scott Cameron Rogers, Lawrence Harold Santenac, George Thomas Scarborough, Dominic N. Scatuorcio, Jr., Jesse Ellison Scavella, Jr., Thomas Eugene Severson, Stanley Bruce Smith, Robert Michael Smith, Dennis Gerald Smith, Aaron Lee Smith, Curtis Richard Smoot, Gordon Keith Spearman, Jr., Stephen Arthur Spears, Carol Wayne Spragans, William John Steedle, Jacob Francis Steppen, Harry Ray Stewart, Larry Anthony Strass, Alan Michael Tanguay, James Lawrence Taylor, Cecil Wayne Tillman, Francis Xavier Turbert, Dwayne Wilmer Vandenbosch, Alex Victor Vardy, Marcelino Vargas, Jr., David Webster, Kenneth Edwin Wedlow, Richard Charles Westberg, Vincent Douglas Westbury, Calvin Perry White, William Warren Weiberg, James Wesley Williams, James Wilburn Wood, Stephen Michael Worley, Clifton Wright, Augusto Maria Xavier, Edward F. Yapsuga, Jr., James Lamar Yarbrough,